Hello once again. One more video for you this week. We've been talking a lot about writing. I just finished talking about writing a thesis. We've been talking about the writing process a lot. So in this video, I want to take some time to talk about reading, which is also very important for this class and for all of your other classes. Maybe that's something I should be emphasizing more. It's just how crucial these skills about writing essays and reading, like I'm going to talk about here, these skills are just going to be involved in every single college class that you take, regardless of what your major is. If you're some kind of science major or business or accounting or whatever, you might think that English is the furthest thing from your major. I promise you that you'll have to read sometimes difficult stuff, and you will have to write essays. So this stuff's very important, and I kind of take it, since this is a required class, I kind of take it as my responsibility to try to prepare you as best I can for what's coming in a couple of years, or maybe already has started for some of you, I'm sure. So reading is what I want to talk about here. So here's the problem. Here's the problem that a lot of students have. I think the number one problem students have when it comes to reading. The problem is that students will read something and then they will immediately say, I don't remember anything that I just read. The students will read a paragraph or a couple of pages or a story or an essay, and they'll come away from it saying, I don't remember any of that. It's like we were just totally spaced out. And we have no recollection. And I think that professors get very frustrated with this, because then they'll ask students, they'll be like, oh, well, what happened in this essay? And like just no one will give an answer. And it's like, partly that's a bad question, right? Like asking students to just like regurgitate factual stuff, I think is always kind of not helpful. But it's also that the students just straight up don't remember, and then if they're reminded, maybe they'll remember. But so yes, I want to try to address in this video how we can try to do a better job of like remembering and retaining the stuff that we just read and engaging with it while we're reading it, so that it's not just like trying to lift information off the page, so that it's actually like engaging our mind and making us like think critically and agree or disagree with the text and stuff like that. Okay, so let's talk about it. A lot of this stuff, I guess, falls under the umbrella of what you might call active reading. Maybe you've heard that phrase before. I think people use it a lot, but I think, like so many things, I think a lot of English classes, and especially high school, teach this very poorly. You might have been asked to do like annotations on a text before. I remember having a class where I had to like keep sticky notes and like put them in the book, and the teacher would come around and like count the number of sticky notes that you have. So I'd end up just writing sticky notes that just said like, blah, blah, blah on them or something, and the teacher would just count them as a sticky note. Obviously, that's not helping anybody, right? That's just making it into a chore. You're doing it just to get it done, to get a grade, whatever. That doesn't really help. But I do think that writing on the text, marking up the text, annotating, I do think is very important. But there's no like one way to do it, and we all have to find our own way that we're comfortable with it and that helps us. For me, underlining is a big one. I've never been a highlighter guy. Maybe you enjoy highlighters. Some of them do look nice. They do have some pretty colors. So maybe you're a highlighter person and maybe you prefer to use highlighters. Great. I've always done underlining. So the thing about it is you want to underline stuff, but you only want to underline like something that's important or interesting or the main idea. That's always a good one. Any essay that I read, I would try to underline what you think the thesis is and maybe like some of the evidence. Those are good places to start. Also, anything that just like is interesting to you or sticks out. For really when you're reading in a college class, most of the things that you read are going to be like in order for you to then write your own essay later on. I know that's how our class is. So one big thing I would do is try to underline or make a note of specific things that you think might help you in your essay later on. So then when you need to go back to find quotes, you already have the things underlined or whatever. In addition to underlining, one problem you can get into with this though is that you don't want to underline everything, right? If you underline everything, it's just as helpful as if you underline nothing. So we have to be able to distinguish between the things that are important and the things that are just, kind of details or whatever. And this is hard and it takes time. And yeah, I definitely didn't do this when I was, a freshman or even a sophomore in college. So maybe it's something that if you start doing now, by the time a couple of years from now, when you get to these really hard courses, you'll be good at it, and it'll help you out. So in addition to underlining, I have a couple of other symbols that I'll use when I write down when I mark up the text. One of them is a star. For me, the star is the highest accolade that I can give to something when I'm annotating. A star to me means it's like extremely important. It's something that is crucial to understanding the essay, or it's something that, like I said, something that I know I'm going to use in my own writing. That's definitely a big one. I'll use the star absolutely. If you're like reading, one of the stories or essays for this class, and you come across a sentence that you know is something you're going to end up wanting to quote in your essay, I would go star next to that so that you can go back and find it pretty easily. So yes, that's the highest level for me. I'll also use a question mark for something that I'm confused about or I don't get. You could also just like write confusing or something, but I'll put a question mark next to something I'm confused about, and then maybe that would remind you to ask a question or send me an email about it or something like that if it's very confusing. Um, Another thing I always try to do is to write like agree or disagree. So like you can not only obviously do the underlining in these symbols, you can also write full words in the margins, obviously, and sometimes I do that. Agree or disagree is a big one though, because that can just help you remember like what were your feelings about this essay as you were reading it, and that can help you like both understand it and engage with it, right? Which helps us retain it. That's a big thing. Like thinking about whether you agree with what the essay is saying or not, in order to get that far down the line, you would have to understand what it's saying, right? And be thinking about it in your own head to then go, I don't know, I disagree with that. So I would always be thinking about that when you're reading an essay. Are you on their side or not? And then at particular points that you agree with or not, I would try to write that on the side there. Yes, so I think marking of the text is really important. For me, I know that like if I'm gonna write an essay about something, I need to have it printed out. Maybe I'm just old that way. Maybe all of you are so melded with your computers that you're good at annotating even when you're reading things digitally. And I know that it's very hard this semester, obviously, because we don't have the same kind of access to the libraries and stuff, though I think they are still open. I'm not going to tell everyone run to the library and use the printer as quick as you can. Definitely not. Um, but like for me, I know I need the stuff printed out so I can physically write on it. So maybe you're like that, maybe not. You got to find out. That's what a lot of this stuff comes down to with writing and things. Is that you've got to find like the system that works for you. So I'm hoping that in this class we can kind of start doing that. Okay, here's one other aspect of reading and of retaining the stuff that you read and remembering it that I don't think it's talked about a lot. And it's kind of a more like psychological aspect. One of the things you have to do when you're reading is you have to like quiet your mind. The biggest difficulty I think that people have, and one of the reasons that they don't remember what they just read, is that they're looking at the page and they're scanning the lines, but in their mind they're thinking about what they're going to eat later or where they're going to go or what's the next video game we're going to play or like it's very easy once you like start to focus that, especially the way we are where we're bombarded by like constant stimulus and like social media and stuff, and it just gives us constant new things to think about, right? You kind of have to like be in the moment. You have to quiet your mind. It's almost like meditation, honestly. And I think it can become like a positive and yes, enjoyable experience because of this. If you've ever done meditation and gotten anything out of that, I think that reading can do something very similar because it asks you to turn off your mind and to just take in the one concentrated stimulus of reading the things. But your mind can't also be doing stuff in the background. If it is, you won't remember what you read. So part of the skill to being an engaged and active reader is being able to quiet your mind like a monk or something and just focus on the thing in front of you, but also to realize when your mind is running away because it happens to everybody. I consider myself someone who reads a lot, and it still happens to me where I'll be reading something and then before I know it, I'll be thinking about all the stuff that I have to do later or whatever it is, or I have to call somebody. And the biggest part of the skill is realizing that that's happening. You know, being able to be like, oh, my mind is going away and I'm not focusing on the reading, and then stopping yourself and be like, okay, take a deep breath, let's recenter, and then get back into it. Because the real problem comes about when you're scanning the page, you're going back and forth, but you're thinking about something else. So then you say, oh, I've read the whole thing, but you don't remember anything. And that is the worst of both worlds, because you're taking the time to do the reading, but you're not actually getting any of the benefit of having done the reading. So this is a problem, right? So you have to kind of take kind of this like meditation, kind of quieting your mind approach if you're going to get what you need to get out of the readings for this class and for any class. Another part of that is the environment that you're in, right? Are there too many outside noises? Is your mom talking to you? Like, are you trying to read at the dinner table or something? And there's too many other people and someone's got the TV on. Some people can read with those distractions. I can sometimes. Like if I'm in public, I can still read sometimes. But some people can't deal with it at all. Some people need total quiet and no lights or well, enough light to see, but no TV or anything like that. So that's another thing that you have to learn about yourself. Usually I talk about people like going to the library or whatever. I guess we're probably not going to do that this semester. But maybe you can go outside, at least until it gets too cold out. Maybe there's somewhere to sit outside or a park or something. But yeah, you've got to be in the correct headspace to like read and engage with the reading and remember everything that you are reading. So try this out. Try to quiet your mind as you read, and then annotate the text. And I really think that if you give this a try, you will be able to then remember the stuff that you've read, and that'll obviously help you to do better on tests and stuff in other classes. I'm not doing any tests, we know. But in other classes, and I think ultimately it'll help you to write your own essays, because you'll be able to like include the stuff from the readings more easily because you'll remember it. And when you go back and look at the readings, you'll be able to see the things you thought were important. You won't have to read the whole thing again because you'll be able to like draw your attention to the things you have underlined or starred or whatever. So yeah, give this a shot. I would highly recommend it. All right, talk to you soon.